Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative. Prophetic and practical.
Intellectual stew.
Informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with James.
All right, what's up? What it do? It's time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland, and we are now resuming our Tuesday flow segments. And on those particular segments, we do something a little more spiritually based. We do our Monday night show where we try to focus on relationships and things of that nature. But on Tuesday nights, we try to get a little more spiritual and try to share some. I have a segment that I like to do called Rebounding from Rock Bottom. And the last couple of segments that I've had some really, really good, powerful speakers. I had Craig, who spent 5 years on death row. Now, the mere fact that he's on the show lets you know that he's off of death row. And I've also had Pastor Scipio A. Brown, and he came on and shared his testimony, which was a very, very powerful testimony. And I got two men of God that are going to come on tonight and that are going to share their testimonies tonight. And they're going to talk about how they rebounded from rock bottom. And now what I want you to do in the comments, this is a no judgment zone. What goes on the stew stays on the stew. You can use this information for perfect knowledge to know what, if God did it for them, guess what? He can do the same thing for you. So I'm going to bring our first guest on tonight. His name is Pastor Rodney Young. I'm going to bring him in and I'm going to let him give his own testimony and we'll go from there. Pastor Young, Dr. Young, we got you, man.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Oh, God, you got good sound tonight, man. I be nervous sometimes when people come on. I be worried.
You dogged me out on my Yahoo email and everything. You told me I was behind the times, and so now I'm gonna show you
behind the time.
Something.
I just said you were old. I did not say anything.
You called me old.
I did.
So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you that I'm up to date and I'm a 21st century brother.
And you're probably more 21st century than I am. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you saw my video last night, I look like a transparent.
I saw it.
Man, I couldn't get my lighting right for anything, and I didn't do anything different than I normally do. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go back, huh?
what it did is just showed you what you're gonna look like 20 years from now with the gray hair and all of
I
that right there.
rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke that spirit in Jesus' holy name. So we're gonna get Dr. Young on tonight, and we're gonna have a good conversation, y'all. And
Yeah,
all of you all
yeah,
that are in the comment, don't be rude. Say hello. Let us know where you're listening from. If you have any questions, feel free to convey those questions. Rodney and I are gonna spend about 30, 45 minutes somewhere in that range. No, depending on how long the testimony goes. Listen, I got my handkerchief ready, because there have been many times on this show where I have literally cried. Hey, what's up, cuz? I have literally had to cry to listen to something. Man, I don't know if you caught the clip earlier today, Pastor Young. We had a cat on by the name of Craig Wilkerson. He used to be a member of my church,
yeah,
and Craig, man, was spent 5 years on death row.
yeah. I did hear that.
Yeah, and he self-litigated and got off of death row, man.
Yeah,
And to hear his testimony and how raw it was, man, it blew me away. That show was so powerful that when I got off, I literally had to sit still for about 15 minutes and just
yeah,
process all the truths that I had just heard. And that's
yeah,
what I want to let people know. These brothers that have agreed to come on, they're coming on to share their testimony, because the Bible does say that we're overcomers by the blood of the Lamb. And that wasn't the only thing. The blood wasn't the only thing that did it. The other thing that accompanied the blood was the words of what? The
their
testimony.
testimony.
And man, you and I met the other night at the fish fry, and it was some good fish. I ain't gonna lie.
Good fish, good fish, man.
And Doc, I'm weird. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a cancer, so cancers only have one per shell. So I don't rock with everybody. You know what I'm saying? So they did a good job just to get me out of the house, right? And then you walked in and you were very cordial, and you mentioned the fact that you had heard us preach, and then we started talking. And then
Yeah,
I shot an analogy at you. And when I shot that analogy at you, you met me right where I was. I asked you, I said, what was the first thing Jesus did when he got back, when he walked in the house with Thomas after after the ascension? I said, what
yeah.
did he do? And what was your answer?
He showed them his wounds.
He showed them his wounds. He
Yeah,
showed them where the nails had literally imprinted their hands. And
yeah.
sometimes that's what we as pastors, we as men of God, we as church leaders, we allow ourselves to be placed on pedestals, and we don't want to show people our wounds. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people that can easily identify with you when they know. That's why they're so hurt. That's why they're so hurt when you do fall, because
Mm-hmm.
they had put you on this high pedestal. And I
Right,
told
right.
God one time, I said, God, thank you for letting me fall before I got up. And I failed so many times before I got up. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I really like to have these segments and have brothers like yourself, man, because before I met you, I had already heard about the wonderful work you and your wife are doing with the marriage ministry, and some of the things you told me the other night regarding your marriage. And I'm sure you'll talk about all those things later on. So let's get into the conversation. You ready?
I'm ready, man. I'm
All
ready.
right, so tell him, who is Rodney Young? We'll talk about Pastor in a minute, but let's just talk about who Rodney Young is, who he is now.
Wow.
First, tell me who you are now. Let's talk about what you're doing now.
I am the pastor of one of the greatest churches on this side of heaven. They're in Douglasville at 6689 Parker Street. We are the Word of Life Christian Ministries. That's who I am now. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 3, husband of 33 years,
Mm,
and a father of 3. I'm a grandfather of 5.
okay,
I'm a friend to many, and an enemy to none.
okay.
That's who I
No
am
enemies.
now. I don't
Okay.
have any enemies. I don't have
Oh
any
wow.
enemies. I might have a couple of people that don't like me, but they're not my enemies, though.
Okay, and
And
there's
I'm
a
not an
difference.
enemy to anybody,
And
So
there's a difference. That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good.
I'm that's who I am now.
Okay.
My heart is for ministry, man, because of my passion comes from where I came from, and I don't believe that church ought to be something that we go to on Sundays and give the benediction and then leave and go to Golden Corral and start over the next week and do it all over again. I think that what Jesus would be doing if he were here, he would be out on the streets. So I
Hmm.
spend a lot of time out on the streets. I like to talk to the people that are out there struggling because I understand the struggle. So we feed the homeless. We set up tents in the community. We do street services. We go out and we talk to the people who came from the places that we were for the possibility of bringing about change in their life.
That's
So
good,
that's
man.
who I am now. That's
That's
what my life is dedicated to.
That's who you are now. Now, the other night
Yeah.
when we had our conversation, and you told me you were from Chicago,
Right.
correct? And I told you that, and my mom has passed away, y'all. My mom is dead and gone, and my mom was a very virtuous woman when she passed away. I mean, loved the Lord, and I believe right now she's in heaven's choir, asking if she could lead a song. I really do believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
mom, growing up, used to be a part of a gang, and I'm not gonna say the
Yeah.
name of that gang. But when I told you that my mom was a part of that gang, your words to me was we would have probably been enemies. Tell us
Right.
what that
Right.
meant. What that meant if y'all would have been enemies. So what does that mean? Where did Dr. Young come from? If that's true.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Any of your listeners that are from Chicago, they would call it over east. So
Chi-town.
it was southeast, 79th and Kingston. Spent a little time on 63rd and Woodlawn, 79th and Saginaw. The place that I grew up in is now known. If any of your listeners go to YouTube, all they have to do is type in Terror Town. That's what it's known as now, is Terror Town. And growing up there, for me, I didn't know I lived in the ghetto.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know I was in the hood because it was home. Growing up there was an interesting experience. I met a lot of colorful people, and for me, the life that I lived is what made me who I am now. You know, I started doing drugs when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
Got introduced to drugs by family members, and started smoking weed. Started out doing that, and went from there to cocaine, and then Quaaludes, then tack. Then there's a thing called Rush out there, and I see John Wilson on the on the feed right here. He knows what I'm talking about. But there's a drug that we used to do that we call Rush, and we would take joints and dip it into that substance and let it dry, and then smoked it, and gave you a rush. That's why they
Wow.
called it Rush. But
Wow.
we learned later on, when we were, when we got a little older, that what we actually had been dipping those drugs into was embalming fluid.
Yeah, I think they call that Sherm in Arkansas. They call that
Okay.
Sherm. Yeah, they
Okay.
call that
Okay. Yeah.
Sherm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up doing that kind of thing right there, and killed a whole lot of brain cells, and that
Wow.
had me kind of crazy out there. And I went from there to gang banging. I started gang banging when I was about 13, 14 years old, with a gang called, I'm going to call the name. We were Disciples, Third World,
Okay.
True Blue, all of
I
that.
appreciate that. Okay.
That's what we were doing at the age of 13 and 14. So I was living a destructive lifestyle, man, and I was on my way to hell,
Well,
and didn't even know it.
let me ask you a question. You said you started smoking marijuana at 11, and then you started to graduate to the Quaaludes and the cocaine and Rush and all those things. Was that all between the ages of 11 and Craig? Hey, hold on, man. What's up, Craig? Craig is the first one who ever did this. That's the one that was on death row. Craig,
All right,
hey,
what's
we
up,
gotta
Craig?
book you, man. We gotta rebook you, Craig, because I need the whole 30, 45-minute session. I only got you in 15 minutes, so I gotta
Yeah,
get you back on. So
I
he
want to
started his.
hear it too.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, he had me crying. And Craig is so articulate. Craig's mother was a teacher. You know,
Yeah,
Craig was raised in church. So
yeah,
Craig, to hear Craig talk, you'd be like, wow. He self-litigated.
yeah.
And he said
That's amazing.
he said he learned the law by being so bad at it. He kept reading it, he didn't understand it. He said he kept losing. Man, I remember his testimony. Now, I mean,
Yeah,
you know, what I'm saying, I done killed some brain cells in my lifetime too. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
But with that being said, but we talking about you right now. Let's get back on these Quaaludes. So you're doing these hard drugs
yeah,
between the ages of 11 and 14.
yeah. 11 and
Wow.
15.
Wow.
But I
Now,
did it. I did it.
brain cells ain't even developed yet.
Yeah, I did it until I was. I did it until I was 19.
Oh my God.
That's when I stopped doing drugs. But I think that a big part of it had to do with not having a male presence in the
Okay.
household.
Okay.
I think that plays a role that we underestimate. Come from a broken home. My father is a career military man, but he and my mother divorced when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and she did the best that she could.
Hmm.
But there are some elements that a woman, no matter how much she tries, can't add to the life of a child when he's got all of this negativity around him that he's exposed to on a daily manner. Nobody to teach him how to really be a man. She can teach him how to be a good human being, but I needed someone to teach me how to be a man. I had an absent father that wasn't involved in my life. It took me a lot of years to get to a place that I could come to a place of forgiveness because of that. But I feel like that if I had had someone there to give me some positive reinforcements, that a lot of those things I would have never delved into. But God can take all things and make something beautiful out of it. So I think that's one of the things that we're missing now.
Hmm.
The involvement of men in the life of our young men that are out there on the streets, and many times when you get involved with a gang, that's really what you're looking for. You're looking for a sense of family,
Wow.
and you got some guys here that'll ride or die, and they accept you just like you are, and whatever goes on, they got your back, and that's what a lot of young people in the streets now, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a sense of family. And when their home is broken and they don't have that sense of family, when they come from dysfunction and malfunction within their lives, then a lot of them turn to the gangs because they
Wow.
accept you as you are. Sometimes it's hard to even come into the church, because when you come into the church, I heard you mention that at the top of the show, this is a no judgment zone, but that's not always true when you come into the
Absolutely.
church. You
Absolutely.
come in and you're judged because you tatted up. You judged because you got a pass, and everybody has a pass. But it seems like that the judgment is magnified when you come into the church. So we're losing an entire generation simply because people won't step up and take the responsibility of grabbing some of these young men and showing them the right way to go. My negative behavior was a cry for help in many instances.
Wow.
If somebody had stepped in and said, "Hey, this is the way to go," then there probably would have been a whole lot of mistakes that I wouldn't have made in my life. But everybody that intervened in my life were negative individuals. I was raised by, I had pimps around me. I had gang members that held high ranks. I had drug dealers. I had people that were living destructive lifestyles that were sowing into me. And so
Hmm.
what they sowed into me produced fruit. And that
Absolutely.
fruit was a fruit that poisoned a whole lot of people along the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you said something a minute ago that I want to go back to. I'm very exegetical in conversation. And I love words. You said two things. You said the home had dysfunction and malfunction.
Yeah.
Is that so? Break that down for me. What for our listeners? I understand what dysfunction is, but tell us how the malfunction took place.
It's when you have a home that's supposed to be functioning in a particular way. It's the thin line between that and dysfunction. But a home that's supposed to be functioning in a particular way, and you have a mother that's really trying to do
That's
uh,
good.
what she's supposed to do, but
Hmm.
then it doesn't turn out right, no matter how
Wow.
much she does to make it right. It
Wow.
does. It goes wrong. It goes
This.
wrong. She's going to work and coming in. My mother would leave, before we went to school, and she wouldn't get back home until 6 in the evening. By that time, I'm into all kind of stuff. So she wanted it to go right. She tried as a single mother, but it didn't go the way that she wanted it to go. Even though she felt like she was doing all of the right things, it malfunctioned.
That's good, man. That
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never heard that put like that, but it makes sense. So let's go back to 7 years old. and your dad, even though he's a career man, career military man, and he leaves, and now what did you have siblings?
I've got one biological sibling, and it wasn't my father that left; it was my mother that left.
Oh, oh
It
wow.
was an abusive relationship. We lived on a military post, and
Uh-huh.
it was an abusive situation. They were both toxic for one another, and she had enough. You know, I witnessed the violence in the home. I witnessed her going upside his head and him going upside her head. And I
Wow.
grew up watching that until she had had enough. And she packed her bags while he was at work. And she grabbed my sister and I, who's 5 years my junior, and
Hmm.
she took off and went to Mississippi. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
now, what age are we now when we go to Mississippi?
We are at the age of maybe 8,
Okay.
7, 8, somewhere in there. So she goes to Mississippi. That's where her mother was, her family was, and she left us there while she went to back to Chicago
Okay.
to get things set up, and then she sent for us, and we went back to Chicago.
And
Yeah.
so now, are you still in the same neighborhood? Are you in a new neighborhood
We're in a
from
new
the?
neighborhood then. Now,
Okay.
now we're on 79th in Kingston.
Okay.
We were previously on 63rd and Woodlawn. You know,
Okay.
so now we're on 79th in Kingston, and that's where everything started happening.
All right, so you introduced another paradigm a minute ago, and that's in every statistical category speaks to how much more functional, not malfunctional, but functional the house is when there's a male in the house. So
Yes,
now you and Fair Housing Act of 1968. We all know what happened. They told us we could move to suburbs, and so those of us that could did, which took a lot of leadership out of the neighborhood, left a lot of single homes and the single mother homes in the neighborhood. And when there's single mother homes in the neighborhood, there what is it? I think First Samuel 30 talks when the Amalekites came in when David and the men were gone. and
right.
and it's interesting how the enemy always comes in and lurks and tries to do what he wants to do is in the neighborhood when the men are gone, because the
Hmm.
men serve as, or should serve as, protection. The men
Right,
should serve as providers. The men, but more than anything, the men should protect their neighborhood, right? Because
right,
if you're a
right.
real man, you're not gonna let certain things go on in your neighborhood. You watch
Hmm.
the movie Boys in the Hood, and you
Yeah,
see Cuba Gooding Jr.'s dad, well, Lawrence Fishburne. Did nobody mess with Mr. Fishburne in the neighborhood?
right, right,
Because he
right.
was the man in the neighborhood, and he
Yeah,
wasn't just Cuba's daddy; he was everybody's daddy, right?
yeah,
And so when you
yeah.
got a neighborhood full of women, right? And I love women. Don't get me wrong. I was married to one for 20 years. When I got the mother. She was the mother of my children. I get it, but they're not designed to protect the neighborhood. They try to protect their houses now. And they do a great job of doing that. They try their best to raise their son, but sometimes they raise them in reverse because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them in society. Men, we raise them to deal with whatever happens in society, right? My
Hmm.
daddy told me a man is one that maintains control at all times. So whatever comes my way, I kind of handle it. So I can kind of handle adversity a little bit different, you know what I'm saying, than some. So
Yeah.
how was that for you, considering that you're in the neighborhood, the gangs are coming for you? I'm sure they chose you. You might not have chosen them. I don't know. How did that situation look?
Yeah, they chose me
Okay.
and brought me into the fold. I'm listening to what you're saying, and the thing that came to mind is what Jesus said as well. And even though he was talking about spiritual warfare, he made a statement that really applies to where we are right now. And he said that that the strong man,
Yeah,
when the strong man comes
it's
into
mighty.
a I mean, the strong man is bound, and when the strong man is bound, then the enemy can spoil
That's what it said.
his goods,
That's
you
what it
know,
said.
and that's pretty much where we are as a community right now. That as far as men being in the right place,
Mm,
uh, we don't see that a lot of times as being the factor behind our neighborhoods being the way that they are.
absolutely.
Uh, One of the issues, I mean, a mother and Mother's Day is coming up. Man, I love my mother. I love the wife. I mean, the mother of my children. There have always been positive women in my life. But as much as they love us, as much as they're rooting for us, they can't teach us how to be something that they've never been. And many times I hear that, and a lot of ladies may take issue with that. But I hear the statement, especially around Mother's Day, that my mother was my mother and my father too. I
No.
get the sentiment
Yeah,
behind that. I understand exactly what they're saying, but it's impossible for a mother to be a father. There is something different that a man contributes to the life of his son that a mother just can't do. And so I feel like, as I forestated, that a lot of the trouble that I got into, and the madness that I lived for all of those years, I contribute a lot of it to not having a positive man there in my house. And so I emulated what I saw, I emulated what I admired. And so I became
that's
uh,
good.
what was going on in my community. I became a source of the grief in my community. I became a
Wow.
menace to society
Wow.
because I didn't have that positive reinforcement within my life that should have come from my father.
That's deep. So now, do you think you were doing this because you were acting out because you didn't have a father, or you did it because you were exposed and you got infected by what was going on in the community?
I think it's both.
Okay, that's good. I was
I
because I
think
was
it's
listening to the
both.
question. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
because I mean, I had a whole lot of anger for years. I mean, even after being in the ministry for several years, I was pastoring, and I would still. My father would call to the house. I was married. I had 3 kids, and my father would call to the house, and I would have to leave home because my wife wouldn't lie for me. She was saved for real, and she knew I didn't want to talk to my father. So I
wow,
would have to go and get in the car when I recognized she was talking to him. I would go and get in the car and drive off somewhere because I knew she wouldn't lie for me. So when he asked, where's my son? She could say truthfully, he's gone. But I did that. I was pastoring then before I really could work through those feelings that I had from 7 years old.
wow. And how old are you now at pastoring, and you're having these feelings?
How old am I now?
Not now, but at the point you're still having those feelings where you had to leave the house and whatnot.
Oh
What age were
man,
you at that point?
I had to be about 30 then.
Wow.
Somewhere in that. And I walked around. I tell you what I did. I walked around and I said I forgave him because that's the Christian thing to do. And I'm a pastor,
Mhm.
so I've got to say that. That's the language, but
That's it.
I
That's good.
wasn't really living that. And here's the thing though, I didn't realize that I wasn't living that until someone said that the way that a womb is healed is that when you touch it, it don't hurt anymore.
Don't hurt no more. Yes,
Now
sir.
as long as you didn't touch that womb, I was fine. But then the moment that I came into contact with something that aggravated that wound, then I really realized in those moments that I really hadn't forgotten him. I had forgot about him, but I hadn't forgiven him
Okay.
for what he had done. So that was a process for me, and there's a lot of angry men out there now, because of that. They're angry with their father. A lot of them don't even know what they're angry about, but a lot of them are angry because of the absence of their fathers. It devalued them in their own minds. They don't feel like they amount to anything. So, we put on a tough exterior and everything, but inside we're wounded as men. We're still bleeding on the inside because of childhood trauma that went on. So that led to destructive behavior.
Wow.
I did act out, but I was also angry about how my life, why wasn't I good enough? That my father married another woman and raised another family, and I didn't see him from the time that I was 15 until I had 3 kids and a wife.
Wow.
And I didn't see him anymore. So there's a lot of angry men that are out there, and they act out. They don't know how to display anger. Anger can be turned around, and that energy from your anger can be used to do something positive. But when you're in
Absolutely.
a destructive environment where nobody's showing you how to do anything positive, then you take that energy from your anger, and
It's got
then
to
you
go
do what
somewhere.
everybody else is doing. Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's got to go
You know,
somewhere.
so there were a lot of things going on. I was a very violent individual. I was somebody that you didn't want to meet in a dark alley. Uh,
Wow.
uh, I started, robbing people in public bathrooms. I'm gang banging. I'm trying to get some rank here. I'm trying to get some clout. And so I'm robbing people in public bathrooms in the high school that I went to. I went to a school called CVS, Chicago Vocational High
I've
School.
heard of it.
It used to mean something to go there. You had to have a certain reading point average in order to get in, but
Uh,
it's not the same school that it was when I went there. But uh, you could go in the bathroom. If you found me in a bathroom, I might take your bus pass and your lunch money and all of those things right there. I started out doing those
wow.
kind of things. It was just the destructive anger. You're angry about where you are and how come you don't have the things that you feel like you should have in life. And so you're angry at everybody, so to have a position when you're gang banging, sometimes it causes you to power trip a little bit, because to be a gangbanger in a community, that gives you a certain degree of power. It makes you feel like somebody when I didn't feel like anybody before, but now, I got clout. I got people
Wow.
that take orders from me and stuff, and I'm just 14 years old, and people are going and doing what I say, and so that goes to your head right there, and you get lost in that. You get
That's
lost in
good.
that. You get wrapped up in the power and the prestige of it all, and it just leads you into a deeper and deeper darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me quantify this some of this conversation for those of you all that are just coming on. We got Pastor Rodney Young with us, and this is one of our segments that we call Rebounding from Rock Bottom, where I have Tuesday flow and we get people on, and like we talked about showing our wounds. Now, sometimes people mistake preachers' meekness for weakness. They think that because we've been saved, that we're saved, that we've been saved our whole life. And pastor's telling you that there was a time that before Jesus stepped in, that he wasn't the fella you wanted to see, that you wanted to see at a certain time. But thank God for God changing, and that's
Yeah.
the thing about that. That's the part that I want us to see. And you've introduced a whole different dynamic than I was expecting so far in the conversation, talking about the absentness of fathers. I can't absence of fathers. I'm making up words. But absence of fathers. I can't relate because when my mother and father got a divorce, my dad came and I stayed with my grandmother for a little while. Then my dad came and got me, and I
You
stayed with
blessed,
my
man.
dad. He raised me with my stepmom. So all those things. Anytime I got in trouble, and that has happened before. When I got in trouble in life, you know, uh, he uh, uh, he uh, he uh he was there. He was there, and he's always been there, and I'm super super appreciative
Yeah.
for that. So let's talk about one more thing. And you said you were violent. You said that you that you got did the drugs and those things, did they eventually lead to you getting in trouble with the law? Did it lead to what type of crime? Because sometimes we do crimes but we might not get caught. Was there ever a time that you got caught?
Wow, man, I got caught all the time.
Oh wow.
I was not a successful criminal, man. I got caught all the time, and honestly, I feel like it was because I had a praying mother. So I couldn't get away with anything, man. So I got caught all the time. At 13 and 14, I already had assault charges. I already
Oh
was
wow.
going to court and seeing counselors and all of that, because sometimes that's what they sentence you to go and talk to a counselor. And the only thing that I would do when I went in and talked to a counselor was to tell them what they wanted to hear, and
Okay.
so they let me go. So I hadn't killed enough brain cells that I didn't understand what people expected from me. So I just told them, what they wanted to hear, and then went back to doing what I was doing before. But uh, I my gang life got so intense, and I told you who I was affiliated with before, but I lived in the wrong neighborhood to be
Hmm.
affiliated with the gang that I was affiliated with.
Oh
So
wow.
I did it for years undercover. I lived on, and those that are from Chicago, they can testify. Wilson is on the line. He can testify that I had no business being a disciple on 79th and Kingston. That was El Rukin neighborhood. That was Stone neighborhood. So I lived right in the middle of them, and them not knowing for years that I was the opposition.
Oh
And
wow.
but one day somebody busted me out, and that's where my life began to be threatened. I got chased. I got barricaded in a building on one occasion, and threatened to jump out of a two-story window in order to get away. I had to run for my life, and when they found out who my family was, I had to sit down and talk with my mother and tell her about what was going on. So now, not only am I in danger, but my mother and my sister, they're in danger because of who I'm affiliated with and the choices that I made in my life. And during that same time is when I caught an assault charge, and they were threatening to send me away this time. So my mother said, let's go to Mississippi. And
Okay.
I was in high school at that time, and she took me to Mississippi, and hoping that my life would change because of that. It did save my life, but it didn't change my life.
Gotcha.
Because when I got to Mississippi, I got a little worse because it was small town Mississippi. And so I started doing a string of burglaries, and
Oh wow.
uh, the newspaper had dubbed me as the Superman burglar, because I was doing some crazy things that I shouldn't have been able to live behind. They couldn't understand how I was pulling off these burglaries. They thought that maybe it was more than one person doing it. And so they were after me. And I progressed from there and started doing armed robberies in convenience
Wow.
stores. So I would
How,
go
how
up.
old are you now? How old are you now?
I am 17 at this time.
Jeez. And they give out life in Mississippi. I saw the movie.
Yeah, they give out life.
Yeah, it's
They
different than
give out life.
Chicago. They give
Yeah,
out real
yeah.
time.
They
So
throw you away in
so
Mississippi.
God had to have a purpose for you. If he
Oh
if
yeah,
he if he covered you like that,
yeah.
he had to have a purpose for you.
But let me tell you how big my head got in that, because I'm going into convenience stores, and I'm throwing flipping a shotgun on the counter and emptying the cash register. And so, being successful in that a couple of times, I decided, okay, tonight I don't need a gun. So I went into a store one night, and just jumped over the counter. I'm gonna strong arm this old cashier, not knowing that he had a gun in his sweater. And he pulled it out, pointed it right at me, and pulled the trigger, but the gun wouldn't go off. So he pulled the trigger a couple of times, and the gun still wouldn't go off. And that gave me an opportunity to jump over the counter and run back out of the store. By the time I get about a half a block down the street, I hear the gun going off. So the hand of the Lord was in everything in my life, man. My life was preserved because he had a plan and a purpose for my life. I had people that were praying for me even when I didn't know it, and it covered me and it shielded me from death. I should have been gone, you know. But I'm in a bedroom with a young lady, and we had traveled down to Jackson, Mississippi, and purchased a pound of weed, and brought it back, and we were in the bedroom. We were bagging up weed. in the bedroom, and something came over me like I never felt before. But I knew it was death. I felt death closing in on me. And then we were sitting there on the side of the bed. I just began to cry. And she looked up. She asked me, what was wrong? And I said, I feel like something's getting ready to happen to me. And she just said, I hope not, passed me the joint. And she kept on filling up the bag. Um,
Mm.
2 weeks later, I was sitting in a jail cell and I was facing 62 years in prison. All of the things that I had done, they had been building cases against me, and all of that stuff piled up. So here I am I'm 18 at this time, and I'm sitting in a jail cell, and they're telling me, uh, we're gonna give you 62 years. We're gonna throw you away. We're gonna make an example of you. You city boys come here and you think you're smarter than everybody, but we're gonna make an example out of you. And so I'm sitting in that jail cell, 18 years old. My birthday is coming up. I'm about to turn 19. Um, and I'm facing 62 years in prison. Um, and the reality of that hit me. A lot of preachers come in and out, but there was one preacher that came in that was different from every other preacher that came in, and that was because he got right in my face. He looked me eyeball to eyeball, and he said, I hope you don't sleep tonight until you give your life to Christ.
Ugh, Jesus.
And I couldn't sleep that night.
My God.
So I gave my life to the Lord. I said, I'm tired. It wasn't jailhouse religion. A lot of people call it jailhouse religion. They say that, there's no way he's gonna change. Um,
Jesus Christ. Help us, Lord.
and I still feel that. I still feel that night. Um, but I was for real, and the Lord knew that I was for real. I was tired. I just faked all of y'all out like I was having a good time, but I really wasn't having a
Wow.
good time out there. I would lay in my bed and look at the ceiling at night after I had been
Touch Jesus.
clubbing all night. And I knew it had to be more to it than that. It was always something in me that was longing for Christ.
Jesus.
And that night I received him, and I made up my mind I was going to live right.
Wow.
I picked up my Bible and I started reading, I started praying, and just so happens that I knew, hey,
Jesus. See, you started this stuff now. I told y'all about starting this stuff, Rodney. Now, come on, bro. Tell you. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Mm.
I knew the jailer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I knew the jailer, and she would ask me if I wanted somebody in the cell with me. I kept on telling her no, I want to be by myself. And so she wouldn't put anybody in. The jail wasn't completely filled, so she would, every time somebody would come, she would ask me, until finally she came to me and said, "Hey, I got to put somebody in with you because we full." But during that time that I was in that cell, I got in my word, and laying on the floor one night and praying and seeking God, and the Lord came in and He filled me with the Holy Ghost. I didn't know anything about the realness of that life, and I lay there on that dirty jail cell floor, and I began to speak in tongues as the Spirit gave utterance, and my life changed forever. Uh, and I began to share the gospel with others, even though they they ridiculed me at first, that you're not gonna hang. I give you 6 months. I give you a year. They felt like that those people knew me, so they felt like I wouldn't, turn around completely. But when I went to the court, uh, 62 years came down to 42 years because the investigators made mistakes in front of the grand jury. Wonder who made that happen right there. And then the 42 years came down to 35 years because they made some more mistakes, and 35 years came down to 25 years because they made another mistake, and grand jury said you can't charge him with that. So the 25 years came down to 15 years. And then finally, the 15 years came down to 13 years. So from 62 years all the way down to 13 years. I served 3.5 years on that 13-year sentence, and the prison became my seminary.
Look
And
at God. Look
all
at
I
God.
did in that time was I stopped watching television. I didn't talk a whole lot to people. All I did was just downloaded that word from Genesis to Revelation, and that changed me. It changed me. I had a whole new outlook on life, and so for me, when that 3.5 years was up, I tell people the whale spit me up on dry ground, and so
Ugh.
he didn't have to worry about me being Jonah anymore. Jonah
Mm,
had changed,
that's good.
running away from what the call was on my life. I had made up my mind that I wouldn't do it. I got out, and I ended up uh, being given the jail ministry of the preacher that used to come and preach
Wow.
at the jail.
Look
They
at
had a
God.
public ceremony in that area, and he passed the mantle to me. So I began to go into the jails and into the college campuses. Started the first Black Christian organization at Mississippi State University. I
Jesus
went
Christ.
out on basketball courts. I went out in people's backyards, and I would give them $20 to let me plug up my sound system in your house. And I would preach in their backyards. I would go everywhere that I could go because I, I had been changed, and I was appreciative. My preaching, my ministry comes out of my gratefulness for where he brought me from. You know,
Yes, 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 yes. Doc, let me tell you something. I'm not gonna hold you up much longer. You are blessing this crowd. And if you look at the comments, the people are saying nobody but God. Right up,
nobody but God.
they're saying that how young people need to hear these pastors' testimonies, and the whole conversation you and I had Friday night about being willing to show our wounds. Now,
Yeah,
God, I don't have anything prepared tonight. I didn't prepare anything for either of these conversations. You're first, and then I'm gonna have Reverend Eric Crowder Jones. He's coming on in a minute. He's already in the green room, the back room, ready to come in whenever I bring him in. He know he's being patient, so I appreciate his patience. And I see some of his listeners on, and you all have similar testimonies, especially as far as being doing the apostolic work in the prison ministry, because he started several churches in the prison ministry, and I want you to meet him. So what I'm gonna do, and Doc, you've blessed us. I mean, you have, and you're gonna be back, and we're gonna talk about this more because I really want you and your wife to be contributors for a lot of the stuff we do with relationships, because I need solid people. You told me the other day that y'all were married for a year, got divorced, got back married, and now y'all been married for 33 years. That's I
33 years.
remember. I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
usually this stuff usually filters out. I don't retain stuff, but I remember this stuff because you made an impact on me. So I'm gonna get you back, and I'm gonna have you come in the area of helping some of us, we single people now that need some good advice. You know what I'm saying? And I know you do it. Tell us about your marriage ministry, and then we're gonna bring Pastor Eric in. But tell us about your marriage. Tell us who your wife is, about your marriage ministry.
Well, the marriage ministry is really, really an organic thing, and it's something that in my first pastorate we've planted 5 churches together, my wife and I, and generally people come in that are living together and not married, and we realized that if we had a healthy marriage within the church, that would be the foundation of the church. So that's really what it started from. So it's really organic. It's not something that we sit down and did the demographics on or anything like that. It's just something that was born out of who we are, and people kind of gravitate to us because they can see the chemistry between us, that we're friends. So everything that we do in that area comes from our love and appreciation for the importance of marriage.
Got you. Well, Doc, we appreciate you. Hold on for 1 second.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna introduce you to Pastor Eric. You
Yeah.
can hang out as long as you want to. If you want to hang out in the comments or whatever, I appreciate you. He has a powerful testimony, young man too, and we're
All
gonna
right.
bring him in. You ready, everybody? Hey, listen, before he comes in, everybody in the thread, don't be rude. Say hello. Say hi. Let me know where you're listening from, and share this thread. Y'all, everybody in Little Rock knows what Pastor Eric Crowder Jones is trying to do for that city and for that area. So I'm waiting on them. I'm waiting to bring him in right now. Pastor E, what up, dude?
Man, what's up, my guy? Good to see you. And Pastor Young, wonderful dissertation and very, very good, powerful testimony. And I'm so very grateful to have heard you and look forward to meeting you. And it's always good to see the story of the underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
God can.
Yeah, man, that's that. Hey, Doc, you. I knew it was gonna happen. That's why I had my little handkerchief here. I knew you were gonna make me cry. So I cried a little bit. He cried a little bit too, Reverend Eric. So don't you come in here making us cry tonight. But I don't care, man. I just, like I said, Doc. I don't know if you heard us, Pastor E.
Yes.
He and I met the other night, and you know me. I don't mess with everybody. You know how I am,
Right.
Eric. You knew me when you were a little boy and I was a little bit older than you. So I just have never really messed with anybody.
Right.
But when he and I started talking, and I hit him with it, I hit you with an analogy just to see how you're gonna respond to it. And he responded immediately and perfectly. And right then my spirit kind of connected with his spirit at that moment. And I didn't let him know, but I pursued him. And like we were talking 10 minutes, and then I said, Doc, I want you to come on my podcast. And he didn't have any issue with it or anything of the sort. And I think people in the audience, were y'all blessed? Were y'all blessed by Pastor Young's testimony? Yeah, everybody saying Pastor Young is real. Everybody saying that's my pastor. Some of them said they didn't know you did all that, Pastor. but that anointing costs, man. People don't realize the anointing costs, man.
That's
it
right.
costs. The anointing costs. It
Yeah.
costs. But if you allow it to crush you right, bro, you can get some of the sweetest wine and some of the most powerful wine, Doc, if you've been crushed properly. But you got to be willing to allow the man. I tell people, Dr. Young, I tell people now there are testimonies that I haven't told that I can't tell.
Yeah, me too.
Doc, you understand what I'm saying? I got to. I don't know about you, Pastor E, but I got testimonies that I can't tell, Doc.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I want to tell you sometimes, but I can't do it. I can't. I'm not gonna do it. So those of y'all that no, they can't handle it. They can't handle it. Those of y'all that enjoyed Pastor Young, look him up on Facebook, Rodney Young. You can follow his ministry, and you can see what else he's doing. I'm gonna be following him. I'm probably gonna have to go on and make my way to Douglasville because I've seen the transition in Douglasville. When I came to Douglasville was pickup trucks and American-made cars, but now they in imports and they got black government and everything going on out there now. So I'm super excited that we have this connection. And John Wilson, that's my friend. That's our mutual friend. He's the one that connected us. And John is the most real person you would ever meet. He talk about, hey Eric, he talk about those Similac sipping saints all the time, Jack. So you write it down. But just give him credit the first time. Don't be a plagiarist the first time. Now the third time you can plagiarize it, but the first time give a credit to John Wilson. He said Similac sipping saints. All right, Dr. Young, I'm gonna let you go, man. We've enjoyed you tonight. And we're gonna get into this conversation with Pastor E. I ain't in no hurry, Pastor E. So we're gonna have a good time, man. We're gonna have, I gave you Dr. Young, we bless you, man. We'll talk soon.
My honor, sir. My honor.
All right, man. Be good. We're gonna go ahead and kick you out right now.
All right.
Dr. E,
What's up, God?
Thou art the man of the hour. You got a lot of people in the chat right now that are saying that's their pastor, and I see your wife, and I see some other people there that are saying hello. I don't know. Can you see the comments?
I see them now.
Okay, good. So you can see the comments, and as we're talking, feel free to interact with them. If you have a question that you want to respond, if y'all have any questions of myself or Pastor E, please put those questions in the comments, and we'll try to address those. Feel free to encourage him. We still like to hear amens, even on this format. Virtual church has changed all of us, right? So let us let us hear your virtual amens and all those things, because he shared his testimony. And ironically, uh, when Eric, and I'm gonna call you Eric tonight if you don't mind.
Talk, yeah, talk.
All right, good. All right. When Eric first came home, I so happened to be in Little Rock. You remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, I so happened to be in Little Rock the first that when you came home, and I didn't know your testimony because, like I said, you were a lot younger, a little younger than I am, and a lot of things happened when I was out. I had moved because I moved to Atlanta 26 years ago.
Oh wow.
So I got cousins that I don't even know because they were babies when I left, and now they 24, 25. So you had done your thing and all your kind of stuff. You know, I knew your uncle, well, you're not new Reverend O.C. Jones and all that kind of stuff. But all that stuff happened. Tell us what happened to lead up to us meeting when we met a few years ago.
Man, from the beginning, I guess I would have to go back into 2001.
Okay.
Everybody kind of knows my story here from the Arkansas area, and those who have been following me over the number of years since I've been home, a little over 4 years, and been preaching 29 years, and heavily involved in church. That's all I did. I'm not no street dude. I ain't never been a street dude.
Okay.
I've never drank in my life, never smoked in my life, never done anything except preach and play the drums and go to church.
That's good context. Okay.
That's it. But what I did, got married, first marriage, young, fresh out of high school, 2 children, 2 daughters, and it was puppy love, I guess you would call it, without responsibility.
Okay.
And then life started happening, and got into a messy divorce. Excuse me. Got into a messy divorce. Excuse me. Got into a messy divorce, and man, me and my wife separated at the time. We separated. I couldn't see my children. Now, my daughters were daddy's girls, and so I was never separated, from them more than 24 hours. I would go out of town, they would go with me. You know, we was always traveling together. And the way to my heart and the way to my temper was through my children. I just had that protective instinct, and so we separated, and I just felt that because of my position as a preacher, and my respect in the community then as a young preacher, that it was best that I didn't involve myself with her in the drama that our relationship brought. Okay. And if since we're keeping it real, and this is the intellectual stew, I just believe that everybody can't handle the calling that God put on my life from a young age.
That's good. I'm glad you went. I'm glad you went there. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, everybody can't handle it. And although she was a good woman and a good mother, everybody ain't fit to be a preacher's wife.
Absolutely.
Especially even at a young age, man. Even at a young age, I was 18, 19. Even at a young age, I was doing stuff at those ages that we marvel about seeing TD Jakes them do at their age now. This is stuff that I was doing at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And so imagine being married young, and your wife at the time is young, first time being married to a preacher. And really, I mean, it's a struggle trying to compete with the celeb status of the man that I'm married to. Wow. And doing ministry the way I did it then, you can't teach nobody how to do it. Gotcha. Doing ministry like I did then and like I do now, pastors get fired from their churches. Mm-hmm. And so she snatched my children away from me. Man, I let it go for about 3 months. And then it just got to me. It got to me to the point to where something had to be done, and I was going to be the one to do it and prove a point. Now, mind you that also, although I was preaching, I was very prideful. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, my charge is not what sent me to prison. My pride sent me to prison. Okay. God allowed circumstances to transpire to humble me, because I wasn't humble. I thought I was, but I didn't really know what it was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. And so I ended up, man, let me tell you the story. My God. it's kind of funny now when I look back in retrospect, I was a monster. So I didn't see my children, and I got a phone call that my oldest daughter was in the hospital, pneumonia, severely sick, at the point of death. My wife at the time had notified me, my family, nobody. And so I'm at the point now that my child could have died and I didn't know. So now my instinct comes in. I'm, not my common sense, but my instinct. Gotcha. And so I called my cousin that day, man. It was Thanksgiving Day, 2001. I called my cousin. I said, hey, man, I need you to drop me off out at my wife's house. And she was staying with her grandparents at the time. We separated. And he said, man, I don't have a vehicle right now, but I'll call you when I get one. Man, look at how the enemy works to bring you down when God is taking you up. All day long, he never called me. Wow. From like 8 in the morning. This particular day, I kicked it with my family. I just had a wonderful time on Thanksgiving. Hadn't even given it any more thought. And that night I stayed over my mother's house. I walked in the house, got out my clothes. It's midnight on Thanksgiving. Midnight. Watch how it happened. Hadn't talked to him all day. Midnight. And he called me. I'm laying down in the bed. I put my phone down. I'm about to turn the light out and say it's over with. He called me. He said, hey, cuz, you ready to go? And in my mind, I'm like, it's midnight, but it's, let's do it. He came and got me. I got my dad's off-duty pistol. Oh, wow. Yeah. And let me show you how God works, man. So I stayed in my parents' house. And I headed, to get in his vehicle. Go outside, the dome light on in my dad's truck, glove box open. What's in the glove box? The gun. Right. I grab it. My cousin didn't know I had it. I get out there. He drops me off. I'm thinking they at home. Security lights coming on. I know I'm probably finna go to jail, but let's go. And so I get out there and he drives off. Now, mind you, I'm in a Crip neighborhood and I got a red goose down on. Oh, wow. So I'm not going nowhere on foot. That's over with. I'm there now. The only way I'm leaving is in a police car unless somebody come get me. Wow. I'm way out in the country. I got a cricket phone, so reception ain't good. And so I'm out here. So I go to the door, man. I'm bold. I go to the door. I knock on the door, and man, nobody came to the door. So I go to the other door, knock on the door. Nobody came to the door. So now I know they're out of town. You know how the older people do. They turn the TVs on and the lights on and make it look like somebody's at the house. Well, I didn't got past that. I done knocked twice and y'all came to the door. I know ain't nobody here. So now I can't leave. It's cold outside. I go around the back of the house, check the door. Man, door lock, ain't nobody come to the door. I sit there. I can't leave. A long way from the interstate, long way from anywhere. I sit down. As the devil would have it, a train came by. Phew. When he came by, it rattled the bathroom window. I turn around and I look up, see the bathroom window. So what does I do? All right, well, let me go through this bathroom window. Wow. Man, I started thinking, but I wasn't thinking. So I popped the bathroom window out, climbed through the window. Man, when I got through that window, it was so warm in that house. Listen, I'm outside freezing. So now the enemy is making it tempting for me now. He's making it comfortably, making it good for me. I get in and I get in the house. I take my coat off. I take my pistol out, take the clip out. I don't want no trouble. That's not my motive for being here. And so my mindset, now that they're gone, is if I can at least talk and explain some kind of understanding as to me seeing my children, then it'll work out. Her grandparents are reasonable, whether she's unreasonable or not, it'll work out. That was my mindset. Yeah. And so it's 1:30 now. It's 1:30 at night. I'm in the house. And so before they can call the police, I'm not thinking cell phones. I go outside and I cut the phone line. I see your mouth. I know that's how I was when I read the transcript. I cut the phone line. My thinking is before the police get here or before they call the police, then I'll be able to explain my story and we may be able to come to some type of resolve. That was my thinking.
Gotcha.
My intentions wasn't to harm anybody, but prior to me even showing up, her uncles and I had been having phone threats with each other.
Gotcha.
And so I took it for protection, really to stunt and really to front.
Okay.
And so I get out there, I cut the phone lines, I get back in. Mind you, it's 1:30 now, early in the morning now. So, man, I just sat in the front room waiting for them to get back in town. I done fell asleep in the front room of their house.
Wow.
And I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm startled. And you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but it was kind of stupid. Man, I got up at 5:30. I'm watching the news, man. I'm just, I'm at home. I fixed me some breakfast. And I fixed breakfast. And wasn't thinking. So about 7:30, man, somebody pulls up in the driveway. I didn't know who it was. I just knew a car pulled up. So my instinct told me to just run and hide. First place I ran and hide, in the room she was staying in, I got up under the bed. Mind you, when I got to the house, I hung my coat up in her closet, put my pistol in the pocket of my coat. All right. He came in, fed the family's dog, walked through the house, walked out. Now I'm seeing his feet up under the bed, right? All right. So now I see that it's finna get serious. I mean, I need to leave. I need to leave now. My phone don't have reception. So what do? I try to use the house phone. The house phone don't work because what?
You cut the line.
I cut the phone lines. So I'm not as smart as I am now. So I went outside trying to put them together, and it just didn't work out for me. And so now I'm here. I'm for darn sure not finna walk in this gang neighborhood because I got the wrong color on. So now I'm at the house. So now I got to have a mindset. Hey, when they get here, I mean, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to bond out, but I need to have my conversation together when they walk in. Mm-hmm. So I immediately started going through the house looking for any weapons, any guns. I started looking for the guns. So I found a 22 rifle, a 22 pistol, and a 12 gauge shotgun. I unloaded all of them and hid them. Well, I hid the 12 gauge in the closet in her room. I took the shells out, hid it, and put the shells right there, right next to the gun. I didn't want no trouble to go on. Let's talk before we start trying to kill each other.
Wow.
And the 22 rifle, I hid it downstairs and X, Y, and Z. And so 5:30, guess who pulls up again? The uncle pulls up again. He comes in, he drops off something, he leaves again. So I falls asleep again. So now I get up and I go sit in the front room. Now I see the grandfather and the grandmother pull up. Grandmother, grandfather stayed there, and one of the aunts stayed there, and then my wife at the time was staying there. Okay, so then I go hide under the bed. That's my instinct. The room nasty, the room junky, clothes everywhere. I'm up under the bed. I got to think of a plan while I'm up under here. My thinking is she gonna come in, she gonna go in the room, she gonna close the door with my kids. I'm gonna pop out. Hey, let's talk. Bam. That didn't happen. Grandparents. Now listen. If my mentality was to kill somebody, I could have done it then. Nobody would ever know. Nobody pulled up except the grandparents, the grandfather and the grandmother. They walked in the house. I'm hiding under the bed. I stay up under the bed. He comes in the house, and I guess his first thing is to call and let the other sons know, hey, we made it back in town.
Phone
what happened when you go try to call?
Phone don't work.
Line cut. Immediately, he called the sons over to the house on his cell phone. They come to the house. So now it's two sons, which are uncles there. The grandmother, the grandfather, one of the uncles brought his wife and his newborn baby. Now it's a house full of people. I'm up under the bed in her room. Now the police thing got called out. Now they're looking for guns that were in one spot when they left that are not there when they return.
Oh, wow.
They're looking everywhere, and you can hear them in the house. I fell asleep under the bed. What woke me up is when I heard the police speed off. The police got a report. They're checking every room for these guns. They're checking windows. They're checking everything. They came in the room I was in. I'm looking at all of their feet, and they checked the window. Everything is secure. Finally, they get to looking at the gun and said, have you checked up under, my wife at the time, her bed? They said, no, why would we check there? They leaned down, and me and the uncle made eye contact.
Oh my God.
That's what I said. So now my mind said, hey, I'm coming up from under the bed. I'm coming sideways. I said, hey, let me explain why I'm here. I raise up, boom, boom, boom. 357, tore the whole door frame off. I stumble back. I fall into the closet. I grab my 25. I cock it, and I come out. Pow, pow. I shoot twice in the air. My bullets lodged in the roof to stop them from shooting. I said, hey, let me explain to you why I'm here. Didn't know at the time that when I raised my arm, one of them shot me with a 22 rifle in my arm.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know I had been shot. Didn't know I had been shot. So at that point, I bagged up. I couldn't see anything. Sheetrock is everywhere. I couldn't see. So I thought they were going to keep shooting. So I fall back into the closet. I know it's over with. I'm ready to die. I know I'm finna die. I mean, at that point, I don't really care. I've never been in nothing like this, never seen nothing like this except on Westerns.
Wow.
And so at this point, I'm ready. I'm literally ready to die. You know, I raise up out of the closet, and when I reach up to raise, because my gun is jammed now, I raise up, and what do I grab? The 12 gauge.
12 gauge, yeah.
Okay. I grabbed the 12 gauge. I laid it open, put them shells in there. One arm, I cocked it. I went to the door. I said, hey, we about to be some shot up. You know, I wasn't talking like Pastor Eric. And
how old are you now?
I was 19.
Wow.
I was 19. And no, I was 20.
Okay.
I was 20. And man, we was gonna be some shot up folks that night. We was all finna go to heaven or hell. And when I stepped out the room, you could barely see, but everybody had cleared out of the house. Come to find out, they didn't know that I was there by myself. When they heard the shots, they thought that I had people in there with me. Wow. So they one of them went out this way. It's a trap door in the bedroom. They went out that way, and everybody else went downstairs. So I come out. I'm getting ready to walk out the back of the house. I go through the house, and I get ready to open the back door. Bright lights on me. Eric, it's over with. It's over with. I said, okay, I'm finna go. I made one step, and I heard pow, and I thought my foot had got shot off. So I jumped back in the house. They had sprayed me with buckshot, and I got shot 7 times.
Wow.
It lodged in my bone, and it hit my nerves in my ankle and my foot. And so that's why I felt like my foot had been shot off, because it hit my nerve. So at that point, when I turned around, I recognized, man, I've been shot. It's a trail of blood across the kitchen from where I've been shot in my arm. My adrenaline was going so high, I didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. So let me fast forward. I'm sitting here. I don't know what to do. They got me barricaded in. I look out the front. You got the helicopters, the SWAT team. You got the whole city out in front of the house. And they got me barricaded in the house. I can't get out. I cannot get out. And I didn't want no problems. Didn't want no issues. Just wanted to see my kids, you know. And so they charged me with residential burglary. They charged me with aggravated assault. They charged me with terrorism threatening. They charged me with attempted murder. I mean, they loaded me down with charges. I got taken. Go ahead.
Was this your first time going to jail?
Man, I ain't never been in trouble.
Yeah, because you just said you were never a street kid. You never drank. No. You never smoked. You never did any of those things.
I ain't never been in trouble. I think I probably had a speeding ticket before.
Okay.
But I've never been in trouble. But my case was high profile because, again, I was high profile. You know, one of the youngest preachers in the city, in the state. You know, my uncle, Dr. O.C. Jones. You know, that name carried weight. So my reputation was kind of like, if something happens, we got to make an example. You know, that's on the prosecution side. That's on anybody's side, you know, a notable name. However, I look back in retrospect now, 22 years later, and say that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my adversities. I'm grateful for those things that has happened to me. prison was good to me, and
Let-
prison was good for me.
before we get to that part of it, let's unpack, because you've really said a whole lot of stuff here that I think needs to be highlighted. Number one, you were a young preacher.
Right.
Number two, you got married young. Number two, you started a family. Sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves as young preachers, especially because we feel like we're supposed to be married. We feel like and we do so much damage to
Right.
the. And now I hear you. I don't know your ex-wife. I ain't trying to say nothing like that. Okay, but we do so much damage to them as young preachers because we think we're supposed to walk a certain way. You know, I got called to preach at 21. And when I got called to preach, I think every woman I thought looked good, I think I told her she was my wife. You know what I'm saying? Until I got the one, until I did, you know, I'm being facetious, y'all. I'm being super facetious when I say that. But I thought I needed to get married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we put that pressure, and we don't realize that we're called to preach. They're not called to preach.
Right.
And so because they're not called to preach, you know, they're called to be who they are, whether that be a mother, whether that's to be I think Lady Jenkins said it best when Pastor Robert Jenkins' wife, when my ex-wife and I showed up at her church. We were girlfriend and boyfriend then. And she grabbed her by her hand and walked her off. And she said, "Are you the girlfriend?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Your responsibility is to help him meet his obligation. Not to
Right.
be the preacher, not to
Right.
be the pastor, not to be the
Right.
evangelist, all those things, but to be my wife, you know," and then we grow together. And so those are the mistakes I think that we make as a young person. And like you said, your pride. Now, Craig just said something, and Craig, 5 years on death row. You know what I'm saying? Craig lived through it. You know what I'm saying? Craig tells his testimony of how when he was in prison, he said it was so inhumane that if a body didn't have a family, he said they
Yeah.
would leave the body in front of his cell for 2 or 3 days, sometimes a week, until, you know, they decide to move the body. So, but he said everything you went through, and you basically attested to it because of your pride. One moment of unclear thinking. One moment of unclear thing. Because guess what? If your cousin wouldn't have gotten the car, you almost went to bed. You know what I mean? It's 12 o'clock
Yeah.
at night. You about to go to bed, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, your cousin gets the car. You know what I'm saying? What happens if you say, "I'm sleepy"? You know what I'm saying? What
Right.
if I say, "No, hit me up tomorrow"? You know what I'm saying? What if anything? I remember one time I was in college at UAPB, and my friends, we were riding through. I had a car, and so we riding over there. We riding over by the mall, and there was this white club called Billy Bob's. And so a dude that was in the car with me pulls out a 12-gauge shotgun, sawed off out the blue. You know, we shouldn't even be drinking, but we drinking, and we
Right.
hanging out. We riding. Now, I wasn't preaching yet. No, I'm still young. So, but anyway, we're riding, man. And all of a sudden, he pulls out this sawed off shotgun, and one of the dudes in the car says, "Hey, man, shoot over in that crowd." There's a whole bunch of white folks. Shoot over in that crowd. I said, "No, the hell you don't." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I drove off, and I took them back to campus, and I got them out my car. And I said, "Y'all got to go, and y'all can't ride with me no more." You know what I'm saying? But I really would like to believe that that's because I had a daddy in my life that taught me the consequences of right and wrong, that taught me choices. You know what I'm saying? My dad used to go around to the elementary schools in North Little Rock doing this program called Talking to Fourth Graders About Choices, right? And so he
Right.
always would impress those things upon me. And you said yourself, and we're going to get into the prison part of it in a minute, but you said that a moment of pride
Yeah.
cost you a whole lot. Now, so let's go farther now. So you are 20 years old. You a church boy, preacher kid, your uncle, Dr. O.C. Jones, all these types of things, right? And now you walk into Pulaski County Jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that like?
Now, and I have to keep it 100. Ever since I was a little boy, God's hand has been on me.
Okay.
And my life is basically scripture. I don't like to front and to fake and quote scriptures just to make myself, that's my life. Anybody who knows me is that God's hand has been upon me, so no evil can come upon me. I actually went to the county jail and had it made.
All right, Joseph.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you something about that later. I went to the county jail and had it made. I mean, I was shot up. I was there for 8 months, but God gave me favor.
Okay.
Literally, from the moment I caught my charge, from the emergency room, because I had to be taken by ambulance, from the emergency room until the day I walked out of prison, God had his hands on me. He protected me. He shielded me. He shepherded me. He guided me. And watch this. When I tell you the story, he favored me.
I want to hear it. Tell us the story. How did that evolution take place? Because you grew up in prison.
I grew up in prison. Everybody didn't know me, but everybody saw God on me.
Okay.
I was in prison every night in a sling and could barely walk for 8 months. Preaching in the courtyard every night to where the guards was coming from all over the jail.
Wow.
To the unit I was in. Packing out the courtyard to hear me preach every night.
Wow. Every night?
Every night.
Wow.
Every night. I had people carrying my Bible.
From the time you got there?
From the time I got there. I was in the medical ward. Then they moved me into the general population ward every night. Packed out. Dudes couldn't wait. Most of the time, you only got 1 hour of TV. Dudes couldn't wait to get out their cells just to come to the courtyard for worship service.
Wow. Wow.
Anybody who's listening, anybody who's watching, who was locked up with me can attest to it. This was every day. Every day. From the day I got to the county jail. So my malfunction in the mission of ministry I had as a young boy was intentionally interrupted by God. Because he had to put me in a place where the chaplains had a limit on how many people could go to the Bible study in jail.
Yes, sir.
But God had to strategically place me in the general population to make me more effective to where he planted me.
Jesus.
So the shootout, being shot 7 times.
7.
I'm grateful because I understand, as I look in retrospect, it was necessary.
7.
7.
Yeah, the number of what?
You wonder why the children of Israel were in flight for their life? They had to be scattered abroad so that the word could get to the four corners of the world.
Yes, sir.
And so God had to scatter me in a place that was uncomfortable to me and wasn't befitting to my calling, but it was necessary. For the advancement of the gospel.
Somebody in the chat, please type necessary. Tell them it was in the chat right now. Type it was necessary.
Yes, sir. You see, that's what I'm saying. People see the glory, but they don't understand the story. I'm grateful for what I've been through. David said, I'm glad that I've been afflicted. So that I might learn his statutes.
Yes, sir.
See, that was some things that I knew as a young preacher, but his statutes is what I had to get inside of me. And if it had not been for my circumstances, I wouldn't know his statutes now.
Father.
I knew how to preach.
Yes, sir.
I knew how to pull it.
Yes,
but I didn't know his statute.
His statutes. Yeah.
And so I'm in the county jail. Okay. I got favor. I'm going to court with favor. I had favor in the courts, but I still went to prison. That was necessary. Because Eric Crowder Jones was so prideful that God had to show me that it don't matter who you know until you really know me like you need to know me.
Really know me until you really know me.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So I was in jail. I was in jail, and I got my time. My trial was 2 days. It was 2 days. The first day, I knew I was going home. I gave away all my stuff. I knew the next day I'm going home.
Yes, sir.
And the second day of my trial, that prosecutor told a story about me. Prosecutor said, Eric Crowder Jones was like that monster in your child's bedroom when they sleep at night that's up under the bed. And they scream and they say, Mama, Daddy, it's a boogeyman up under my bed.
Wow.
That's Eric Crowder Jones.
Wow.
While I didn't see myself as the boogeyman, sometimes you have to recognize why people call you what they call you when you understand the spirit you're operating in.
There you go. There you go. There you
Before
go.
you disagree with what people are saying, check yourself to ensure if what they're saying is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Because I want to be free, I said they were wrong. But after I got to prison and started reading my transcript, they was right on point.
Bruh, hey, listen, everybody in the chat, this is good. If y'all are being blessed by this, share this thread. Somebody else needs to hear that. You just said something that a lot of us as men go through, especially those of us that think quicker, that kind of move, and we get favor, right? We don't have to look in the mirror a whole lot. Like I use
Right.
the analogy all the time. I can brush my teeth without looking in the mirror. I can wash. I know the corners of my eyes, so I can wipe all the matter out of my eyes without looking in the mirror. I can ride down the street and tie my tie perfectly, riding down the mirror. So there were times that I never really looked in the mirror. And because
Right.
I didn't look in the mirror, when I got divorced, I got to, when I finally was stuck on that couch in the house by myself and silence sounded like noise. Got a little power surge. It's coming back. Are you still there, Eric?
I'm here, Doc.
Okay, good. You're okay. We're back. We got. So anyway, for the first time, I'm stuck on this couch, and I'm metaphorically looking at a mirror, right? And you know what? The first thing I said, damn, I look like that.
Right.
I was that.
Right.
You know what I said? She should have left me.
Right.
I was a mess.
Right.
And that's my challenge. I got a little video out. If y'all hadn't seen it yet, y'all got to go to, hey, whenever we find ourselves in these types of circumstances, it's best to look in the mirror. And if we can learn how to look prior to, because Eric, check this out. Most people that look in the mirror, they trying to fix a flaw, or they trying to cover up something that's already there, and as soon as you take it off, it's still gonna be there in a minute. We always trying to but we don't never really look at our real, authentic self and see what really needs to be adjusted, what needs to be changed. And here you are now. You're in prison. You have been a preacher. You've laid hands on the sick, and the sick have recovered. You prophesied, you're this boy preacher man, and everybody knows that you're destined to be a pastor and all of this. But you know what I like about it is that wherever you were, you planted and dug in.
Doc, let me tell you this. Now, man, and I'm so grateful you said that there's so much in this story. I went to prison. The first day I walked in, I wasn't afraid to go. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I heard so many good things about prison in the county jail. And thing is, if you can't beat them, join them. If you know you can't get out, prepare yourself. Man, I got tired of that stuff they was feeding me in the county jail. They told me it was a store in prison. I was trying to hurry up and tell them to bring the bus.
He said,
I hadn't heard no music in 8 months. I hadn't heard no music in 8 months. I wanted to hear the radio. I'm talking about, man, I was trying to get there. I mean, I couldn't change the circumstances. I was already convicted and sentenced.
So adjust.
I got there, and man, and I walked in. Listen to me and hear me good. Man, when Pulaski County transports, they transport between 50 and 70 people at a time.
Okay.
I pulls up at the back door diagnostic. I'm the first person off the bus. I'm the first person to go in. I walked in the door. I saw a couple of my homeboys.
Wow.
Guys that I had looked out for. Guys that I was friends with, who were inmate workers across the whole unit.
Okay.
I had my own cell. I had everything I wanted. Brought me a big old bag of groceries. I had everything. I was locked up a full nearly 18 years, and I can count on one hand how many times I ate prison food.
Wow.
I had more steaks in prison.
Wow.
Than I've had since I've been free.
Wow.
I've had more. Again, I didn't have to adapt to prison because I wasn't there.
Wow.
So I'm there. I get there. I'm going through the system, and God gave me favor. You have to be there for a certain amount of time before you go to Riceville, because Riceville was the privileged unit.
Oh, wow.
All right. Riceville is the privileged unit. And are you on there?
Yeah, I am. I actually did something to this doggone. Hold on, let me see what I did wrong. I did. Keep talking. They can hear you, but I
Okay.
messed up. Yeah.
Riceville was a privileged unit. Okay. And so
I see what I did.
you got to be there for a certain amount of time before you can go to Riceville.
Mm-hmm.
So I got sent to the Supermax.
Supermax?
I'm not even in prison for a good 2 weeks, and I'm sent to death row.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sent to Supermax, right? I'm not even in Supermax population because the space, they put me in there with death row.
Wow.
So I'm in there with 3 tiers of people on death row. And I get out 1 hour a day. So I'm playing chess with people who on death row. And I don't know why I'm there. I'm panicking why I'm there. I'm there for about a week, and I'm talking to God. And this is what I tell God. I said, man, I'm preaching your word. I'm Eric Crowder Jones. And you allowed me to come to prison. And I knew that God had his hands on me. But at that point, I thought I had lost everything.
Wow.
I had let my family down. I couldn't do this time. And I took 60 pills and went to sleep.
Oh, my.
I ate. I waited till they turned the lights out. I had 60 ibuprofens. I thought that was going to do the trick. I mean, I don't know. I know if you take a lot of pills, you're going to die. So I thought, hey, that was going to be it. Yeah. I took 60 ibuprofen, laid down in the bed, and I knew I wasn't going to wake up. The next morning, about 8:30, I woke myself up. I wasn't feeling funny. I wasn't feeling off. I mean, I didn't feel no way. When I woke up, I had one light in my room, that screw-in bulb, and that bulb was just blaring. I went to my cell and I looked around, and you know, everybody was moving around. It just felt different. And I said, man, they're not doing work call. And the guy said, yeah, everybody already gone. He said, they didn't pop your cell because you getting transferred today.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I'm getting ready to kill myself when God set me up to be in a place that was uncomfortable to get me into a place of favor at Riceville.
Jesus.
And watch this. God wouldn't let me die
Jesus.
in the place of my uncomfortability because he had an assignment for me when I got to where I was going.
Oh, yeah. Your assignment is much bigger than your agony. Your assignment is much bigger than your agony, Doc.
Much bigger.
Yes, sir, Doc. Yes, sir.
Much bigger. And so nobody, but God was preparing me to pastor. How can you pastor people who going through struggling? How can you pastor people who are about to lose their mind? Because in one day I almost lost mine.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I got to Riceville.
Father.
Walked in. God gave me favor. And hadn't had any visits yet. I'm in prison a few months. Watch this. Watch this. My victim, which was my wife, we had already divorced by this time, was my first visit in prison. We have not talked since we separated, before I caught my charge, before I went to trial, and she wasn't even on my visitation list. She just walked up to the prison and they let her in because it was my first visit. She didn't have to be approved. I started preaching in prison, working in prison. I was at the top of the prison. I was the clerk, so I kind of ran everything. I mean, if it had to be done, I was the doer of it.
Wow.
I did it for a number of years. Then I got some haters that came up against me. Watch this when I tell you what happened. Some guys wrote notes on me, got me locked up. I wasn't even tripping. I got transferred to Pine Bluff. I'm the only inmate in the history of the Arkansas Department of Correction that ever stayed at the director's house.
Wow.
I went to Pine Bluff, stayed with the director, had my own room. I was riding around on a motorcycle in prison.
Wow. That's favor. Y'all better type favor for real.
I was eating steaks in prison. I was watching TV. I had a couch in prison. I was taking care of one of the directors and his wife, who I just preached her memorial service last year. I came home. They gave me a car. I got the keys to their house. As an inmate, I had their credit cards. I paid their bills. As an inmate, I sat at the head of the table at Thanksgiving dinner with their whole family from out of town. I led the prayer. As an inmate, we cried, we hugged. So I didn't really have to conform to prison. What I did was cooperated with favor.
Let's unpack this statement Brother Craig just put out. Craig Wilkerson. Like I said, Craig is Craig used to be one of my members, but Craig said we don't know the assignment until we get in alignment. And that's a powerful statement, because sometimes we think that, like you said, you thought your assignment was just preaching. You were cool with just preaching and going around to the different churches and doing youth revivals and all those types of things, right? But that don't necessarily mean that you're in alignment, right? Because we can think this is I thought I would have been pastoring 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I ain't gonna lie, Doc. I mean, I thought, but that wasn't necessarily my assignment, right? But now that I'm in alignment, I can understand my assignment better, because number one, I'm an introvert. Number two, I don't really care for people like that. Number three, you know what I'm saying? I can reach more people through this medium by having these conversations. You know what I'm saying? So many people right now are being blessed by what Pastor E is saying tonight, because and the funny part about it is God will make you uncomfortable just so he can cause you to conform.
That's it.
And what he did was he put you in an agonizing situation. For anybody else, let me quantify that statement. That situation would have been agonizing for anybody else, but Eric Crowder Jones was designed for such a time as this.
You have to learn how to master your wilderness.
Well, you at least got to learn wilderness tactics. Exactly.
You got
to learn some wilderness tactics. Yeah.
And that's important. I couldn't see it, but I refused to quit. When God allowed me to wake up that next morning, I had to have a bulldog mentality that I can't quit. He called me to preach. He didn't tell me where. And so everywhere my foot lands, I got to preach the gospel.
That's good, bro. That's good.
I preached the gospel to the point to where, listen, every unit I went to, watch this and hear me good, they were packing it out. I got in trouble and went to Calico Rock, 85% white. You had, listen to me. You had all of these white folks, man, packing the chapel out. And they usually had 10, 15 people in the chapel service. They started having 100, 160 to the point to where they couldn't even use the chapel. We had to start going to the visitation center just to hear me preach and sing.
Wow.
After about almost a year of the crowd being like that, the Board of Corrections approved to break ground on the new chapel at Calico Rock.
Wow.
But God allowed me to do that. I didn't want to be in Calico Rock. I couldn't see my family. I didn't have nothing black on TV, nothing black on the radio, but that was my assignment.
So God basically made you a modern day Apostle Paul. Well,
Listen,
during that time.
we always say, Lord, use me till you use me up. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes him using you is incarcerating you.
Yeah.
Sometimes him using you is shipping you away from your family.
Oh yeah. What would have happened to the children of Israel if Joseph didn't make it to prison?
Exactly. And
the drought would have took him out.
I was mad at first because my victims got on the stand and lied on me. But now I heard Joseph say, you thought you did this?
You did evil against me.
You really didn't do this. It was all part of God's design to get me here so I can save as much people alive. In other words, my session then helped me walk in my season now. And I just preached that about 2 Sundays ago. We have to stop telling people you just going through a season. No, baby, you're going through sessions. When you finally get to the season, you'll be able to walk in what you went through in your sessions.
Yes, sir, Doc. Yes, sir. Yes.
So I'm in prison. I'm in prison. I'm staying with the director. My God, his wife and I, like mother and son. I mean, literally. I go to their house now. I don't even have to have an invitation. I walk in the house. I come and go when I want to. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. They have a house in Texas, a condo in Hot Springs. I come and go when I want to. She's passed away. Me and the former director, father and son. I mean, that's literally our relationship. I came here my first anniversary. They came down and he spoke at my anniversary. The director of prison now. The director of the prison.
Wow.
So I'm in prison. And so I go through prison. I'm doing good. Watch this. This is where I believe prison was necessary. This is my story. And I want to tell it because I believe that this part of the story is for anybody who's listening. All the other testimonies are good that I have about prison. This is the number one thing that I believe that pleases God. There was a person that molested my sister. And I can use her and I can tell y'all who she is because we did a talk show on a Christian network a couple of years ago where we went ahead and put it all out there. Okay. And it's also on the news.
Okay.
And I wanted to kill this dude. I was going to kill him. It wasn't no ifs and buts about it. And the position I had within the prison, I could kill him and get away with it. And he was coming to prison. I had his write up. I saw where he was coming, what was going on. My mind was when he comes in, he don't know me. We got different last names. He don't know who I am, but I know who he is. Mm-hmm. The prison was overcrowded. So they sent him to another prison for intake. Wow. So I've been looking for this guy for years. In prison, all you have is last names on your shirt. So for 6 years, I looked for this guy. And every time I repeated the last name, it wasn't the guy. Listen to me, Kurt. Listen. I was at a unit to where the warden approved 16 people to get off work on Fridays to come to the chapel to my Bible study class. I'm teaching Bible study for 6 months on a Friday afternoon. This guy's in my class, and I did not know it.
Won't he do it? He'll hide him. He'll hide you. He'll hide you.
Mind you,
I've seen it.
I never ate prison food. My homeboy caught me in the hallway one day and said, hey, come and let me get your tray. I walked in with my homeboy to give him my tray, and the guy was serving the food. He called the guy by his first name, which I didn't know. I knew who I was looking for, but while he was in my Bible study class, I never asked him his first name. For 6 years, I never found him, so I knew this wasn't him. And I looked at him, and I told my homeboy, I said, man, he said, yeah, that's the guy who got the rape charge. I said, no, that's the nigga that raped my sister.
Oh, wow.
We went back to the barracks, got all our homeboys together. We finna kill him. This is what happened.
Tell us.
I get on the phone, I call my mama. And I tell my mom, I say, hey, you remember that incident I said, I'm going to take care of it now. She was cool with it. You can't stop a made-up mind. I got ready to hang up the phone, and guess who walked into my mama's house?
Your uncle.
My sister.
Oh, your sister. Oh, wow.
She said, guess who just walked in? She put my sister on the phone. I told my sister what was finna happen. She said, no. Tell him God bless him and I forgive him. Now, wait a minute. I'm the preacher. I'm not the victim. And she says, tell him God bless him.
Jesus, Father.
And I forgive him. That was a life lesson for me. Because I'm in prison, begging the governor to give me clemency, but I'm ready to kill somebody because of what they did. And God told me, until you soften your heart and extend grace and mercy, I don't care how many people you know, I don't care how much favor you got, I'm going to shut your favor off and your grace off till you learn how to extend what I give you.
Wow. Wow.
Check this out. That ain't even nothing. That ain't nothing. My God, help me, Jesus. So I got in trouble. I got transferred to Calico Rock. He got in trouble right after that. And guess where he got transferred to?
Calico Rock.
Right next to me. Same barracks, everything. While I went by, I got transferred to East Arkansas. A couple of weeks later, guess who get transferred to East Arkansas?
Wow.
They didn't even strategically do it. It was just available bed space. He sat right next to me. He talked to me. He admitted what he had done. He apologized for what he had done. Long story short, he and I became best friends.
Wow.
We ate together every night. The last 4 years of my incarceration, we ate together every night. We prayed together and talked together every night. As a preacher, as a pastor, a Christian, and a person, you ain't really who you say you are until you learn how to forgive people.
Boy, you better talk. You better talk.
All of them prayers I was praying for God to get me out of it, he wasn't hearing that because I still had unforgiveness in my heart. We became best friends. Because the politics, I can't give out information, but as soon as I forgave him, God literally moved heaven, earth, politics, and position and brought me home.
Jesus.
I didn't try. I didn't ask to come home. Nothing. Brought me home.
Wow.
Now, I'm on parole. A liaison with the governor's office. I'm on parole. A liaison with the parole board. I've seen a parole officer one time. 4 years. I don't pay no fees. I travel the country. I'm not bragging. That's just my testimony.
Oh, yes, sir.
I came home and I was grateful. I was grateful for prison because it taught me three things. I tell people all the time. It taught me discipline, it taught me duty, and it taught me devotion.
Say it again. Say it again.
Discipline, duty, and devotion. Discipline says I have to. Duty says I ought to. Devotion says I want to. That humbled me and gave me a desire to sit on the shelf for 18 years. I know y'all ain't gonna like it, but it's real. I wondered when I would watch the news in prison, why when issues were going on in our community, I didn't hear from pastors and didn't hear nothing from churches. Wow. God said, I'm sitting you down so you can see what you need to do. I need you to sit down.
Sitting you down. Yes, sir. Sit you down. That's what he'll do for you. He'll sit you down. He did that. Yes, for me. Sir. Yes, sir.
Prison was my university, and I graduated with honors.
He promoted you through prison. And
That
you know
was
what?
it.
And you know what's so funny? You know what? Because you're about to mess me up, and I'm trying to behave on this show tonight. It's called the Intellectual Stew, so I'm trying to behave. But, bruh, the thing about that is that how many years were you there?
18.
So you do know that 18 is the number of government, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so he used the same government that punished you to promote you.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. So 2 years ago, I hosted the statewide night of prayer.
Okay.
I had all of the judges and everybody here at the church as an inmate. Thursday night, day after tomorrow, I'm hosting a statewide night of prayer again.
Okay.
An inmate. Over 65 confirmed public officials.
Wow.
Why? Because you have to learn from what you came out of.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for the fire because I want to reach back with the burn marks to show and pull somebody else out like God pulled me out.
The burn mark, but you don't smell like smoke, Pastor. You
That's
went
it.
through the fire, but you don't smell like smoke.
And that's the
I
problem.
saw you. Yeah.
I believe the problem is some people get so honored because they don't smell like smoke. They want to cover up the fact that they've been through the fire.
Exactly.
I want my haters to talk about my history because I want to tell you about my current.
Yes, sir, doctor. Yes, sir.
My history made me who I am.
Your history helped. Yes, sir, doc. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so I'm here today and I'm forgiving today. Watch this. God gave me assignment in prison. People say, slow down, Pastor E. You need to rest. I'm a full-time pastor. I don't get a salary. I'm a full-time pastor. I'm on call. I don't get a dime for nothing I do. Been home 4 years, ain't never punched the clock.
I watch you.
I got 3 vehicles paid for. My house is paid for. Why? Because God told me when you come home, he said, whatever you do, you make sure you do it for free.
Boy, you better.
If you do everything you do for free, I'll meet your needs according to my riches and glory. If you handle my business, I'll handle yours.
The wealth of the wicked is laid up.
It's laid up.
And getting interest. And look, and got 18 years of interest for you, partner. 18 years of interest. You know who you're talking to, right? You're not talking to the normal. You better recognize.
Man.
Yeah. You got 18 years of interest. I watched you. You were there the first Sunday I preached when you came home.
Yes.
You were encouraging me. You were encouraging me, Doc. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So I saw something, and then I watched your evolution. I watched how God caused you to evolve. I watched how you wearing the nice suits. You said you were going to get your uncle's building, and you got it. Everything that you said you wanted to do, you gave it to God, and then God gave it to you. And guess what? I was talking about the whole parable of the talents thing like this. He gave 1 5, he gave 1 2, he gave 1 1. The key was to occupy. Whatever God put in your hand, you occupied, man. And you traded, and you did what God told you to do. And when he came back, he said that he gave you that, because you talked about you being got your PhD in prison, but he gave you that WD testimony too. One of those well dones. And that's what we all want, is a well done testimony. I don't want my well done to come in the end when I'm about to die. I want my well done on this earth. Because
I was saying today, I had some people come against me last week. No, I didn't. I had one person come against me last week, and I was proud, not prideful.
You handled that. I saw you handled it like a G, Doc. I get it to you. You
handled my character, and that's what I'm saying. My character is conducive to my testimony, and we have an ethical responsibility to uphold our testimony. Man. Which means you got to get your shine on to the point that nobody can speak evil of your good doing.
Oh, yeah. And Doc,
I'm grateful to where I am, and I remain humble because I understand where I come from.
Doc, I've been through the fire. I've been through the fire. I've been through the flood. But it prepared me for the wealthy place. I'm the same way, Doc. I get it. Help yourself, Doc. Talk. We got about 7 more minutes. We're gonna wind it down.
The experience was painful in some parts. My mama didn't have a son. I missed a couple of funerals. I didn't see my children grow up. I missed a lot. So it was painful.
But it was necessary.
However, now today, I still got the receipt of what I've been through because it's too expensive to pay for it twice.
I got receipts. Somebody say I got receipts, please. I got receipts. Yes, sir.
And
Talk, sir.
so the old folks saying a charge to keep I have.
Mm.
So God called me to pastor. I pastor different. Nobody's supposed to understand the way I pastor. Nobody's supposed to like it. I'm not into helping people become happy. My job is to push people to become holy.
Yes, sir, dog.
And so my testimony is part of that. And I had to go through what I had to go through to make me who I am. Everybody in the kingdom of God has to be different.
Mm.
If you could do what I could do and I could do what you could do, then one of us will be irrelevant in the kingdom of God. And so I take my experience and use it not only to help other people, but to keep me humble. Paul said there's a thorn in my flesh.
Yes, sir, doctor. You got
to keep me humble. And so I forgive like you can listen. People don't really understand it. Let me tell you, Kurt, you can spit in my face today, and I'm gonna take you to breakfast tomorrow like you ain't never spit in my face.
You can't spit. I ain't that saved yet, doc.
Now let me say this. A lot of people say what you said, but when you've been through what I've been through,
I understand. Yeah.
And you understand that your blessings are tied to how you forgive.
Yes,
your
sir.
blessings are tied to your obedience in God. It ain't nothing nobody can do to make me misappropriate the second chance God then gave me.
I got you.
My freedom ain't predicated on me not committing no crimes. My freedom is predicated on me obeying what I promised God I would do when I got home.
Well, you better talk.
And so I have to uphold the standard and the agreement that me and God made. And so last story, and I'm gonna be done. Thomas Edison, he created the filament of the light bulb. And he spent during his whole life just creating that. And when he finished it, the story says, you can Google it, he gave the filament to a young boy. And he told the young boy, he said, take this up to the testing room. On the way up to the testing room, the young boy stumbled and failed and broke the filament. Mind you, it was Thomas Edison's greatest invention, had never been lit. This was the first time, and this young man destroyed everything that Thomas Edison has spent his life trying to create.
Yes, sir.
He scraped it up. He took it down to Mr. Edison with tears in his eyes. He said, Mr. Edison, I've destroyed your creation. I've destroyed everything you worked hard for. I've destroyed it. Mr. Edison said, that's okay. He went back, started drafting another one. He created another filament. Guess what he did months later?
What'd he do?
He called the same young boy. He said, come here. Take this to the testing room. The young boy said, no. He said, I'm the same one that broke it the last time. Mr. Edison said, it doesn't matter. Take it to the testing room. I learned through prison. I learned through my own personal experiences that when you truly forgive people, you have to treat them like Thomas Edison treated this little boy. You have to treat them like they never broke your trust in the first place. If you ain't ready to get to that point, you ain't ready to forgive. And if you ain't ready to forgive, shut your mouth and quit praying because God ain't hearing it. So ultimately, experience will teach you how to get in line with the will of God to help thrust you into your next level.
That's good, Doc.
Forgiveness is the key. Period.
That's good.
It ain't no way around it. You can't bend it. You can't sugarcoat it. Well, it's different for me. You don't know what they did to me, and me and God all right. If you ain't forgiving the way God say forgiving, you and God ain't all right.
Doctor. Boy, if I had a Hammond right now, I promise I close right now. I feel like somebody. Give me a C sharp. I'm good right there. But I promise that's a good place to close. Fine. I feel that. Eric, man, listen, you have been a blessing on this show. If you're looking at the comments, man, and people saying that you're teaching that that what forgiveness is doing for them and all the things. You blessed a lot of people tonight, man, and this chat room has been full, and I'm super appreciative to everyone that's in the chat room tonight, and everything that you've said. And I pray that something that has been said either through Pastor Young or through Pastor Eric, and I'll have the replay available tomorrow. If you all aren't following me, follow me here, or you can follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. you can go to the Intellectual Stew, and you will find all of these shows. And I'll have this one available tomorrow. Doc, we talked about this, and I wasn't gonna do it until God told me to. I've been watching you for a long time, but I wasn't gonna do it until I don't do. You know what, man? People ask me how do I come up with my topics. Man, I do this like sermon prep, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
God. Sometimes I don't get the revelation till the morning of. You and I talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Yep.
but it's like something because I want to help somebody. I really want to help somebody.
You're doing an amazing thing. You are helping people. I watch you. I peep in. If I don't get it live, I go back and watch pieces of it. You have to dare to be different as well. You're doing something that is reaching people where they are. We got to get from behind our titles and start meeting people where they are, so that people can accept us where we are when we fall. And this is the last thing I'll say. I want to say this. Give me 10 seconds.
No, go ahead, bro.
It's
You good. You good.
The heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
We got a heart issue.
Yes, sir.
And if we learn to fix our own hearts, we'll know how to treat people. And if we treat people right, then in return, people know how to treat us right.
That's good.
I love you, man. I'm grateful for what you're doing.
Dog, yeah, I love you back. And listen, if anybody, I got the Cash App and the Zelle and the PayPal going across the bottom of the screen. If anybody wants to support this platform, please, ma'am, please, sir, do so. If, as you see, we're trying to do some great things. Last night, if you missed the show, for those single people, not married, y'all married, so not y'all, but for the single people, we did a show last night and we had the ladies come on and tell us how to date them.
Right.
We want to know. They always tell us what we're doing wrong. So we said, let y'all teach us. Tell us how to date you. What do you like? What do you mean? What are your natural proclivities? How do you like to be approached? All of those things. So we put that out there last night, and it was a good conversation. And we're gonna do it again Monday. And I pray to God we'll do something similar next Tuesday. But it's gonna be hard to top this one. I ain't gonna lie. It's gonna be hard to top this one because you and Pastor Rodney have been
wonderful job.
Super authentic, man. And the next thing about it, we say wonderful job, but it really ain't a job. You know, we just kind of just telling our truth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like I said, I have no notes. Normally I have an outline or something. I have no notes. This was going to be a 100% organic conversation. And man. I wanted to make sure, I wanted it to evolve into whatever it evolved into. And man, I learned some things I didn't know about you. And the things that I've learned now have made me, and I can say this because I don't have a problem saying this to a brother, have made me respect you even more.
Wow.
Because
bless you, man.
Man, because some stuff you did 20 years ago, one bad decision, but God had to do it. He had to do it. He had to do it. And if we don't get anything else out of what we learned tonight, it was these 3 words right here. And you know what they are, right? He said it was necessary. And whatever you've gone through, God chooses the foolish things to confound the wise, right? Man, when the enemy comes in like a flood, even when it's supposed to be coming in, he lifts up a standard against those enemies. I mean, he takes what the enemy meant for evil and sits around and turns that around to make it work out for our good. I mean, God is so awesome. But the thing is, once we can remember to keep him first in any and everything that we do, that's what it's all about. It's what it's all about. We got to do what he tells us to do. Pastor E, man, we don't always pray at the end of our show, but tonight I'm compelled to ask you to pray for those and speak a word over all 34 people that are in the chat right now, and all those I know that are eavesdropping. Go ahead, speak a word and pray over the people, and then I'll give you my final greeting.
Dear God, we thank you so much for what our ears have heard. We thank you so much for the testimony of Pastor Rodney, for myself. We thank you for James as well, God. But we thank you for the testimony of all of these listeners. We're praying, God, that you would just allow us to illuminate our testimonies in ways that give you the glory.
Yes, Lord.
Nobody but you brought us through what we've been through. And God, I'm praying right now for everybody who is struggling and going through something right now. I'm praying that they would learn from the testimony that has been shared tonight from myself and Rodney. Praying, God, that you would give us wisdom in these difficult days that we're living in, these troubled times that we're living in.
Do, Father, do.
Praying to God that you allow people to be real with each other just as they be real with you, to keep it 100 with you.
Yes, Lord.
Praying, God, that you would just order our steps. And as always, give us divine wisdom how to walk in the steps that you've ordered. God, we thank you. We love you. We can't make it without you. And so I'm praying that every man, every woman, they stand on their own spiritual 2 feet, leaning and depending only on you.
Yes, Lord.
Somebody's listening tonight struggling. Somebody listening tonight suffering. God, I'm praying that you would pull them through. Give them strength tonight. I'm praying that you would increase this platform for James. I'm praying, God, that you would just use this, turn it into something bigger to change lives across this country. Praying that pastors, saints become more real and more transparent. Come from behind the titles. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Boy, you messed me up tonight. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna have to sit here for a few minutes and just process or what just happened. Listen, like I said, y'all see the Cash App, y'all see the Zelle, and you see the PayPal. If you want to be a blessing, like I said, we're gonna be all right regardless. But if you want to sow into this platform, I think it's good soil. I think it's good soil, and we'll prove it as we go. Eric, every time I get out of here, I say something that I try to get y'all to remember, that the world is changing. But my question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night.
That's powerful.